Hello, everyone. It is the 17th, but yesterday was the 16th, and that's the day we're going to be talking about. Um, we have once again achieved a record word count for one day, so that's pretty good. At this point in the Nano, that was still we're going at it with renewed vigor. Yesterday was 1,941, and today was 1,955. So that's exciting. I think I'm still doing all right. This chapter is now very long. We are going to cut it at some point along where we read today, but I haven't done that yet because it messes with OBS when I try and open two different Word documents during one video. I'm not good at computers. Anyway, we're just gonna get right into it. We're having a pretty good time today. Oh, we did. This is the first day I didn't write anything at night, and I did the whole thing in one sitting. During the day when I wasn't tired. And this new technique that I've just discovered, I don't know if anyone else has. I assume I'm a pioneer here, and this is the first time it's been developed. I had a lot. I had a lot of fun. Possibly more fun than writing the first half while sleep deprived, and then writing the second half during the day. I don't like to. I hate the part where one session ends and one session starts. It always, I don't know, throws off my groove. Let's go. And we do resolve the ours a lot situation today. Zach had almost reached the source of the commotion when his two. Oh, by the way, we cut immediately from the old scene to a new scene in the same place with the same characters. This is because I couldn't figure out how to start, so I just started a new scene. I don't know. It makes it slightly easier. There's a trick for you for nanoing. Just start a new scene in the same place with the same characters, and then later go back and fix it. Zack had almost reached the source of the commotion when his two allies, looking notably ragged and flustered, barreled right into him. He was knocked prone and disarmed in the collision. In turn, first Rob and then April each tripped over the dropped weapon to collapse beside him. The sound of frenzied mechanical motion in the adjoining room came to a close. It was up, and now fully capable of chasing after them. It's coming, April warned Zack, scrambling to stand. Where's the thing? Zack replied. April pointed to the room they'd emerged from. Other thing, he specified. Give me the thing! He scrambled around for the thing, finding nothing instead. This is the kind of dumb pun that I like. This is a stupid pun. It's not really the time, but, we gotta slip those in when we can. Robert fished up the item he and April had tripped over. This? It appeared to be a can of deodorant. He wondered briefly it was a special deodorant the pair had brought with them as a secret weapon that perhaps repelled demons. Then he remembered they weren't that prepared. Zack snatched it off him. In the other room, the beast was running towards them, judging by the sound of claws digging into the carpet and furniture yielding messily as it passed. He jumped to his feet and popped the cap on the deodorant can. Rob spotted the lighter in his other hand. The thing rounded the corner, looking even angrier than usual. Zack said, "Ah!" and fired his aerosol can flamethrower with his eyes closed. The resulting jet of flame was small and didn't even get close to the creature. April searched around for a more effective weapon, but still the path they'd been caught on was barren. She was wondering what her last words should be when she noted the creature backing fearfully away in the wake of the ball of fire. She'd been, until very recently, fairly sure you couldn't set metal on fire, but the reaction gave her a ray of hope. Rob, though, knew more. The bizarre insight had been granted, stirred, and he saw the thing from the beast's perspective. The creature. Saw the thing from. Maybe. The creature, and all of its kind, hated and feared the sun for its light and heat. The jet of flame, however feeble, represented both. Do it again, he commanded. With another. Ah! Zack backed up and gave another quick pulse of flame. Since he'd been out of range the first time and both parties had since reversed the small way, this one was less effective. Upon opening his eyes, he saw the creature cautiously closing in, and offered another high-pitched whelp of fear. Rob, stop him! April saw Zack considering running a second before his resolve broke. and shoved Rob into his path. The two men collided gently before Zack could build up any speed. Give me the thing, Rob asserted. Wordlessly, Zack slipped the can over to him, then slid past along the railing on his flank, breaking away into a run behind him. Rob aimed the deodorant back at the creature, realizing only then that he was missing a key ingredient in weaponizing it. I think I might have spelled weaponizing wrong, but my spell check didn't recognize it as a word. Is it a Z or is that an American thing? It doesn't really matter. We'll look that up later. That's a problem for future Ben. I hope I remember. I mean, that's what the videos are for. April saw it too. There was about enough in her for one quick yell before her voice was fully spent. Zack, lighter! Zack paused, observed the thing in his hand, and turned back. All the while, the metal beast was slowly realizing its target was once again disarmed. Its cautious, testing advance became a walk, became a trot. Rob stared it down, trying and failing to look mean enough to be wary of, while knowing in truth that the moment he broke eye contact was the one it leapt at him, sinking its teeth into his neck. Zack pitched the lighter to April. April fumbled the catch but managed to trap it against her leg with one hand as it fell. She looked up, again wasting a precious half second to gauge the situation, and saw the telltale motion in the monster that signaled a pounce. Rob was the target. If she handed off the lighter to him now, he wouldn't have time to use it. Rob realized it too and turned to run, but he'd be dead before he took his first step. April threw herself at him. Rob was caught mid-step and thrown backwards into the railing from the force of April's shoulder check. The move had left her roughly in the path of the incoming charge, and she tried to reverse her momentum. She was way too slow. April had no longer been in the path of the beast's jaws, and it had to adjust mid-motion accordingly. It landed, paused, then threw itself onto its hind legs and clawed across April's head. The first paw flicked narrowly across in front of her eyes, and still sloping backwards, she calculated hopefully that the second should do the same, becoming extremely disappointed as it hit her in the face. April let go of the lighter as she went down. Rob saw it falling, like a shining light amidst the rain of blood, and ducked low to snatch it out of the air, failing to recognize the falling body in the background as he did. The Azalot was upon them, and he didn't have time to adjust the facing of the nozzle on the aerosol can, opting to adjust on the fly instead. We adjusted twice there. We'll sort that. I quite like the. I don't know. We. I don't know. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you're not sure you've got it quite straight, you just he just has to. You don't have time to check, so he just has to kind of work it into the right position. That's what we're trying to get across. I think it's just the two adjusts that's the problem. Rob had only ever seen this kind of weapon used to amuse chavs, and as such doubted its efficacy as a weapon. It took him a second to correctly align everything, but then the stream ignited. The creature saw the jet of flame coming towards it, and for a brief second must have been in the grip of something akin to fear. The next second it was alight. The thing went up like tinder. It tried to back away, but was already far too late. The fire spread to every inch of it as it thrashed and screamed, trying in vain to put out the flames. Launched another lunge at Rob, but was far short. Its joints already beginning to seize up as the metal parts began to warp out of shape from the intense heat. Rob backed up, finally spotting April lying still on the ground. It lashed out again, missed, and fell, its eyes starting to crack apart in the inferno. Rob ran to April, grabbing her under the arms and dragging her backwards as the immolated creature continued to rage dangerously nearby. In its desperation, it got close a couple of times, but eventually was spent. It collapsed sideways, whimpering pathetically in increasingly brief and scattered intervals until it was silent. The fire suppression systems kicked in and it began to rain indoors again, but the fire was too hot to be extinguished until the creature had burned down a little. And then we NC. The guy in the box room was still there, sitting completely stationary as he had been previously, like nothing had even happened. Needs some kind of punctuation there. All around him were dead and wounded. It's blasphemous to bring an open flame in here, the man told them without looking as they cautiously approached behind him. Where's the other one? Zack asked, ignoring his statement. They won't crush you again. Leave now and consider yourself lucky. And that was that. The path to the single functional lift was particularly thick with gore. Behind it, the fire escape had been barged open and the trail of horror continued. The lift, too, had been thoroughly bled on, leaving a dark crimson handprint across all the floor numbers as well as sparse patterns on the floor and walls. April contributed April contributed to them as she sat, clutching Rob's suit jacket against the hole in her face. The lift doors closed successfully, and it began to feel a little bit like safety, though they could sense the camera in the roof and feel the weird bald guy watching them on the way down. Police are going to turn up soon, if they aren't already, Zack nodded. Everyone be ready to slip past them. They're gonna catch us anyway when you take me to the hospital, April growled. If she moved her mouth at all, she could feel the wound sliding back open, so she tried to avoid it. We can disinfect and bandage it in the van, Zack continued, suddenly a picture of calm, thoughtful leadership. It needs stitches, April told him. She was the only one who hadn't seen the extent of the wound with her own eyes, but she was exactly right. She'd be lucky if it didn't need more besides. All right, folks, listen, Zack began in his best leaderly tone. It's been a rough day, and everyone's rattled. I get it, but our first priority has to be avoiding police involvement. Turned to April. I thought we agreed this earlier. Shut up, Zack, Rob told him before April had a chance to. They concluded their journey in silence. Next scene. The police were indeed waiting. This is probably going to be where the chapter ends? Yeah, I think so. The police were indeed waiting. Zack made good on his promise to evade them, somehow disappearing shortly after the lift opened. Rob and April made no attempt to hide and were escorted to an ambulance. The next few days were strange. Oh, I just wanted to say, like up to the police were indeed waiting. That's like the episode 1 of this whole thing. It's gonna, in pacing terms. We I mean, I don't know why I stopped to say that. It's quite obvious. Yeah, it's my proof of concept episode. Everything else is building from there. Rob had accrued a variety of cuts and bruises over the course of his journey, and was functionally okay after a good sit down. The police brought him in for questioning shortly, and with no way to confer with anyone, he had absolutely no idea what to tell them. He started with the truth, informing them of the madness that's supposed to be that had spread through the lower floors, and they pressed him on this so thoroughly he never had to think of a convincing lie for the really weird stuff. They told him they'd be in touch, and were, frequently. Every time they called him in for questioning, and each time he told them the same thing. Wondered if he might be a suspect, and then, separately, what he might be a suspect of. The days passed in an odd haze. Work was cancelled, for obvious reasons, so there wasn't much to do but reflect on what had happened. He thought occasionally of the odd pair who'd infiltrated the building, wondering if they'd initiated the incident somehow, or if they'd just timed their visit horribly, wondering where they'd come from and what they represented. Mostly, though, he thought of violence. He remembered the blood and flame and bodies most vividly out of all of it. For the first few days, the news only speculated on the potential incident that had occurred within the Cooper Booth Tower. The news becoming gradually more grave as more details emerged. By the third day, they had a body count. By the fourth, they were ready to report the full story, claiming it as a mysterious and sudden outbreak of madness within the workers, presumably ignoring all those who'd been carved through with animal claws or crushed with metal jaws. On the fifth day, Rob received a very polite note informing him that the company he worked for no longer existed. He filed it away in his waste paper bin and continued to brood on the events, already wondering if any of it was real or not. It seemed so much like something he dreamed, so much more like something dreamed than reality. By day 6, between his growing doubts and the news reports, he was willing to accept that the whole thing had been an outbreak of mass psychosis, and none of the horrors he'd witnessed had any basis in reality. He made a pledge to stop dwelling on the imagined past and get back on his feet and prepare for the future. He would begin again tomorrow. On day 7, 1 week after the Cooper Booth Tower incident, Zachary Morgan climbed into his apartment through the window. And that's where we leave it today. I really liked this part where it's going through the like time skip. I thought I did a really good job of that. But yeah. So that's where I left off. Yeah, I'm liking it. I really like my characters this year. And like, I know it sounds braggy, but for one, if you don't pat yourself on the back sometimes, who's gonna? For two, I never like my characters this much, even when they've been these same characters. I don't know, I just feel like I feel like I'm pretty in tune with them. Um, I'm just having a really fun time writing about 'em. Yeah, it's just fun. I have no idea where we go from here. I mean, obviously, Rob's gonna have a lot to say to Zach. Um, some point we're gonna meet Piper. That's probably in the immediate future. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And if nothing else, if everything else I write is garbage, this beginning, I'm pretty happy with. Well, obviously it needs a lot of work, but I'm pretty happy with. I don't know. Broadly the events maybe need some work or some thought about how they're logically linked together. But yeah, I think I've done a good job. This is going to be chapter 5. Haven't thought of a name for chapter 5 yet, but we'll see. That's all for today. By the way, is it Trans Awareness Week? So trans rights, by the way, they're human rights. Goodbye, everyone.